The first Camp Rock movie has its 15th anniversary this year, so I thought it might be a good time to revisit both of these movies. So in this video, we're going to review Camp Rock and Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. Now I've only seen each of these movies once, and honestly I keep seeing clips from the movies, and don't worry, I'll show a couple. Can't put all the good stuff in the beginning. I don't think these movies need a massive introduction, so let's start the review. I'm gonna go a little more scene by scene with this plot than I usually do. So of course, since this is an early 2000s movie, we open with our main character Mitchie getting ready for school, with a song by Demi Lovato playing in the background. And with licensed music, and especially songs written for movies, I tend to try not to overthink in the context of the movie. But we're not even 30 seconds in, and I have questions. Is this a song Mitchie wrote that she's listening to? Or is Mitchie the character listening to Demi Lovato? Does Demi Lovato exist in this universe? Okay, whatever. Anyways, we see Joe Jonas on the TV as his character Shane Gray, a member of the group Connect 3, and he stormed off the set of their music video or something, and their summer tour gets cancelled. Mitchie's mom, who does catering, shows her the Camp Rock pamphlets she found and reminds her they can't afford to send her to camp. A few scenes later, Mitchie finds out that her mom got a catering job at Camp Rock, so Mitchie can attend for free if she agrees to help out in the kitchen. So we get to camp and we see all these people just dancing around. I don't know why, but this is really funny for some reason. This dude drumming on the bus? Look at this dude. But here we also get a look at our villain for the movie, Tess Tyler, daughter of DJ Tyler, a famous singer in the movie. We're also introduced to Caitlin, and you know what? I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. Camper today, top-selling music producer tomorrow. Check me out.
The other members of Connect 3 force Shane to go back to camp and tell him he has to record a duet with the winner of Summer Jam, which is the end of camp singing competition. Mitchie snoops around and sees Tess and her friends rehearsing.
You think you're hot, but I'm sorry you're not exactly who you think you are.
After getting chased by some fangirls, Shane ends up hearing Mitchie singing. Since he's hiding, he isn't able to see that it's her singing.
This is me.
Later at the camp opening jam, Mitchie meets this girl Lola, who proceeds to bust out a musical number, and this scene and song are hilarious. Let me be clear, I'm like 15 minutes in. This movie isn't good, but it's bad enough to be funny, so it's still watchable. Look at these dudes. What is this movie? Anyways, Mitchie gets embarrassed about being poor and lies to Tess and her friends. She tells him her mom is the president of the Chinese division of Hot Tunes TV. Tess invites Mitchie to join her group. After this, we actually get a pretty important scene with Tess. She calls her mom and her mom brushes her off, and says she'll call her back. She implies it happens often by saying this.
Yeah, you can totally call me back. Love you too. Have a good concert. As usual.
Before we can get too into it, Mitchie walks in. Not a lot else to say other than look at this bracelet. It will come into play later. Later in the cafeteria, Caitlin advises Mitchie not to be friends with Tess. And then we see Mitchie sing her original song in class, and she does pretty well. Here's a short clip.
Who will I be? It's up to me.
After that, Mitchie runs to go work in the kitchen and interacts with Shane, and she does this.
You would not believe your eyes.
After the interaction, the scene fades to black. This was a TV movie, so obviously this is where the commercial breaks are, but watching it with no commercials, I don't like it. The campers attend Shane's class, and he makes them all grab hats and mics and we get this goofy dance scene. But I will say, they do give some attention to detail in making this guy a little bit off in his dancing, but then we get this goofy stuff.
Man, you're a drummer, dude.
Just because he can hit sticks on the floor doesn't mean he can play. Whatever, it's just a dumb movie. At the campfire jam, Tess performs a song, and this song is bad. I don't really have much to say. Here's a snippet.
'Cause I'm too cool. Yeah, I'm too cool to know you.
Look, I know Demi Lovato is a good singer, but you don't have to pick a bad singer to make her look better. The next day, Mitchie hears Shane playing some different type of stuff than what he performs, and they begin to form a friendship. After this, Tess starts a food fight with Caitlin, and Caitlin gets blamed. Mitchie doesn't defend her and Caitlin gets sentenced to kitchen duty. Mitchie runs into Shane and he performs a song for her. And this scene is really weird.
You're the voice I hear inside my head, the reason that I'm singing. I need to find you.
So it's just them, right? Why does he have backing vocals if he's singing to her? Where is that coming from? So while working kitchen duty, Caitlin finds out Mitchie's mom is the cook and that she isn't rich. After this, we get the most famous scene in the movie. You guys have probably seen this clip somewhere. Well, here it is.
She's really good.
Tess ruins Caitlin's performance, if it wasn't ruined already, but this time Mitchie stands up for Caitlin and disses Tess. And the scene fades to black again. Stop doing that. We get a scene of Mitchie and Shane on a canoe, and then Tess follows Mitchie and finds out the truth about her. After this, we get a performance from the Jonas Brothers as Connect 3, and honestly this song is pretty good. I have nothing bad to say about this scene. After the song, Tess exposes Mitchie for lying, and low-key she kinda had a point, but then she dunked on her for being poor.
Your mom cooks our food and you help her. That's the only way you could afford this camp, right?
Then Shane goes off on Mitchie for lying. At class, Shane gives a speech about being your real self and your music being the real you.
None of it means anything unless people see who you really are. And your music has to be who you really are. It's gotta show how you feel, or it doesn't mean anything.
Stop acting like it's all about you.
In my world, it is.
It's the one thing on my mind.
And then Mitchie gets a motivational speech from her mom. And this guy still hasn't played on real drums. Remember that bracelet from earlier? Yeah, so Tess frames Caitlin and Mitchie as thieves, and Director Brown bans them from all activities until the end of Final Jam. Hint hint. At Final Jam, Tess's friends quit on her, and I have no clue what their names are. I'm not even gonna bother looking it up. We get a musical number, not a fan of this one. Then we get Tess's song, and it still isn't great, but it's a lot better than her first song. Her mom is there and takes a call, and if you listen to the lyrics, she's singing "Come On Look At Me," because her mom never pays attention to her. She almost falls off stage, then runs off and starts crying. Then we get a song from Peggy, apparently that's her name, and it's intercut with a montage of Tess yelling at her, including a scene we saw like 5 minutes ago. The song is fine. Here she is. Tess apologizes to her two friends and they reconcile. At the end of Final Jam, Mitchie performs a song. Shane joins in after he realizes she's the voice he heard. But you know, this song sounds kind of familiar.
So that you know, it's so that you know, 'cause you're everywhere to me.
You're not slick, Disney. We see you copying Michelle Branch.
And every time I sleep, you're always there. This is real, this is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be now.
Peggy ends up winning the Final Jam, and Tess apologizes to Mitchie and Caitlin. We get one last musical number, and then the movie ends. So let's talk about some things. If you came to see the Jonas Brothers, you're gonna be disappointed. Nick and Kevin aren't really in it. Kevin plays the dumb one in the group, and Nick has a singing role in their song. But other than that, they really aren't in it. The acting in this movie is your typical Disney Channel acting, so you aren't getting anybody going for Oscars here. It isn't necessarily bad, but there isn't really a standout actor either.
One word. Payback.
That's 2 words.
BTW, your lip gloss is so not glossy anymore. You're gonna get new music skills. You're gonna find your sound, create your own style. Holla!
Guys, I learned my lesson. I showered in cold water. I looked at a tree. It's been 3 hours. I need hair product.
All right, eeny, meeny, miny, you.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
And this script is goofy, man. I think I've shown enough clips for you to get the point, but here's one more for good measure.
Okay, what is that?
She said, whatever, major loser.
There's also one line in this movie that kind of bothers me, and it's this one right here.
I may be the cook's daughter, and my father may not be rich, but I'm a much better person than someone who feels good about herself because she makes everyone else feel bad.
Now, up to this point, Michi has been kind of a bad person. She lied about her identity to testing them to fit in, and she turned her back on her one friend who liked her for who she was. She was ashamed of her mom, who was the whole reason she was there in the first place. She also steals the spotlight from Peggy at the final jam. The winner was supposed to perform a duet with Shane, but they don't do a duet at the end, it's a group number. He ends up doing a duet with Michi because she's the voice he heard. But she wasn't the winner. So I guess we'll just push Peggy aside? This movie really wants us to like Michi without really giving us a reason to like her or root for her. This movie is also too long for what it is. I think you could easily fit this movie into 80 minutes and not lose out on anything. Take out every scene with Drummer Boy. I don't need to watch this dude click his sticks on wood floors and random objects. And you know what? I watched the movie twice just to confirm that he never plays on real drums. He does not play on real drums. He is a useless character.
Andy.
Cut out every musical number that doesn't involve a main character or important side character. I'd keep Peggy's song because I do like that she wins over Tess, but like this girl, she has no role in the movie after this. We don't need this song. The song with the trampolines, we don't need it. The editing is also really bad at some points in the movie, specifically anytime the three Joe Bros are interacting. We don't really see a lot of the camp stuff either. They attend the dancing class, and I think this is a singing class, but is this all they do? I think you could have easily shifted this to a school competition, and the plot wouldn't have really changed much. This is a little nitpicky, but I also mentioned how I hate these fade to black transitions. There's so many of them in this movie. Now it's obvious that's when they're supposed to cut to commercial, but it really stands out when you're not watching it as a TV special. I'm not going to deduct points or anything for it. I just don't personally like it in movies regardless, unless it's used properly. The soundtrack isn't bad. Some of the songs are pretty bad, but this Jonas Brothers song is actually really good, and it's probably my favorite song between the two movies. Now some of you may know Joe Jonas from this song here, and some of you may know this Jonas Brothers song.
So what a man gotta do? What a man gotta do?
But long ago, the Jonas Brothers were Disney stars making music like this.
'Cause I'm burning up for you, baby. He said I've been to the year 3000. This isn't SOS, don't wanna second guess it.
Burning up in this place tonight. The crowd is singing loud.
I'm feeling right.
Get up and dance. Don't try and fight it. They rock for real.
But for as bad as this movie is, it's also hilariously bad. And let me be very clear that this movie is bad, but I kinda like it. Put this movie on with your friends, have a couple drinks, and I think you'll have a good time. So with that, Camp Rock is a very rockin' 3 out of 10.
She's really good.
Now 2 years later, we were given a sequel to Camp Rock. Let's talk about it. So the movie begins, and pretty early on we get our first musical number. And I do like this song.
It's a brand new day.
The dancing is something.
Touch this.
However, we're a little under 10 minutes in, and I already found something I don't like about this movie. So wasn't the whole message of the last movie about stepping out of the shadows and being yourself with your music? We got a whole solo musical number with Peggy. Remember this? Well, now she's back to being a backup singer again, but instead of Tess, it's Michi. We're not even 10 minutes in and it already feels like we're taking steps backwards. Director Brown announces that there's a new camp across the lake that was started by his former bandmate, now rival Axel Turner, owner of Star Records. Camp Rock gets invited to a bonfire hosted by Camp Star. They attend it and we get another musical number, this time from Camp Star. Afterwards, Brown says that they didn't lose many campers, but they did lose a bunch of their staff, so Camp Rock is now closed. Tess is the only really notable one to join Camp Star. Then we get another musical number.
We can't back down. There's too much at stake.
A few of the campers decide that they'll be counselors to try to keep the camp going. There's a few different subplots I'm going to briefly mention. Throughout the movie, Nate, played by Nick Jonas, creeps on this one girl from Camp Star, and they have a little thing going on. Shane and Mitchie are also trying to progress their relationship, but run into some issues. And then Jason is working with the junior members of camp. So anyways, we get this cringy scene of these kids pulling up on Camp Star.
Camp Rock! Camp Rock! Camp Rock!
And then we get another musical number, with kids from both camps.
It's on, it's on, it's on.
So Axel sets up a televised battle of the camps called Camp Wars to see who the audience picks. Later on, while talking to Mitchie's mom, Brown voices his concern that losing to Camp Star will shut down Camp Rock permanently and calls it a trap. He's upset that Mitchie got them into it, and Mitchie overhears this and runs off. She starts being hard on the other campers, and they tell her she's taking the fun out of camp. To lighten the mood, Brown has Shane set up a water fight which everyone enjoys. Later that night, Shane has a moonlight picnic all planned out, but Mitchie is too focused on winning the competition and gets mad at him for that in the water fight. Then we get another musical number. The next morning, it's revealed Shane gathered all the campers for early rehearsal. And then we get a song from the Jonas Brothers, and it's a really good song.
If you got heart and soul, you can rock and roll.
Meanwhile, Nate meets up with his girl and he doesn't know how to say how he feels.
Here I am. That's it? I came all the way over here in a canoe, risking my father's wrath, and that's all you have to say to me.
And why is this girl so pressed? You barely talk.
I guess I just thought you were different.
I am different.
No, you're not. You're exactly like every other teenage boy in the world.
Then we get this weirdly placed duet from Joe and Demi, intercut with a montage of Mitchie and Shane spending time together.
You're my favorite song.
And then we cut back to the Nate storyline, and Jason recommends singing how he feels to the girl. So he does this, and this song is pretty nice.
Hopefully amusing, introducing me.
But this is like 4 musical numbers in a span of like 15 minutes. Can we space these out a little? But anyways, she does like the song. Later that night, Jason takes the junior campers to go spy on the Camp Star rehearsal. The next morning, they report back on what they found. They relay that it's mostly Tess and this dude Luke singing as a duet, which gives Camp Rock confidence. Caitlin and Peggy think Shane and Mitchie should do a duet rather than a whole performance with the whole camp, and this makes this little dude sad. I don't really know his name. Outside, he shows her video he took from camp that shows the fun he had, and that gives Mitchie an idea. So then we get to the Camp Wars. So Camp Star goes first, and obviously the production value is pretty high, so the show is pretty cool. And the song itself is actually pretty good. The song finishes up and we get a brief interaction between some of the Camp Rock crew and Tess. Meanwhile, Brown finds out that Axel spent a bunch of money on marketing just to get votes. Then it's Camp Rock's turn, and we get this duet from Shane and Mitchie with the footage Sad Boy took playing on the big screen showing the campers having fun. And everyone else is up on the stage having fun.
This is what we came here for.
So the results are in, and Camp Star wins, and people are sad. But fear not, at a campfire later we get another musical number and the kids from Camp Star come join the Camp Rock kids because Camp Rock is so much more fun. A bunch of them want to sign up for next year, so this means the camp is saved. And after the song, the movie ends. So let's talk about some of the good stuff. There isn't a lot, so this shouldn't take too long. On a technical level, the movie is a step up from the first movie. The cinematography is better and the editing isn't quite as bad as the first movie. The dialogue between the characters is also less cringy, but it still has its moments.
All work and no spray makes a very unhappy rocker.
All the main actors did get better as actors too. I think Demi Lovato and Joe Jonas both did fine, especially for this being a Disney TV movie. I think the plot is more interesting in this movie. I like how the movie focused more on the camp aspect. I think some of the best scenes were actually with Kevin Jonas as Jason teaching the younger students. I think they all had a good dynamic, and the scene of them spying on the Camp Star rehearsal is a fun scene that does fit into the camp competition spirit. There's also this really nice scene where they give him a birdhouse, And in the first movie, his character asked Shane for a birdhouse, so it is nice to see them call back to this in the way that they did.
Oh, and can you make me a birdhouse or something?
Hello?
Hey, buddy, how's my birdhouse coming?
I didn't want anything.
Well, I wanted a birdhouse.
And
So
why'd you
what?
need a birdhouse for?
Because I wanted to see more birds in my...
Guys.
And that's pretty much everything I liked. So let's talk about some stuff I didn't like, and it's actually a surprisingly short list. The fatal flaw of this movie is that I think many of the characters regressed. Let's go through a couple examples. For one, Peggy. I talked about this at the beginning of the segment. For last movie, they made Peggy break out of the shadows of Tess and become her own artist. She supposedly got an opportunity to record a song with Shane after winning the final jam last movie. But then in this movie, she's basically there to just be in group numbers or as a backup singer. Tess also regressed as a character by joining Camp Star. Even though she isn't mean to the Camp Rock kids, I think this shows regression because she's still more obsessed with her image and becoming famous than she is with being with her friends at camp. I didn't talk about this scene from the first movie because it isn't actually in the original cut of the movie. At the end of the movie, they all go to Caitlin's house for a jam session, and Tess is included in that group. So anyways, at the end of this movie, she has to rejoin Camp Rock. So why even technically make her an antagonist this movie? You already had Luke. You're telling me you couldn't come up with another female singer to sing with Luke? It just feels like we took a step backwards after establishing that Tess is kind of friends with these girls. We try to force her to be a villain again, rather than actually further progress her character. She constantly bickers with Luke, but at no point does she actually defend Camp Rock or tell off the Camp Star people in favor of Camp Rock. But I think the worst offender of regression is actually Mitchie. Mitchie is still a bad person. So obviously she gets mad at Shane because of the water fight, and then her big plan involves using Sad Boy's footage to show how fun Camp Rock is. And on the surface that might not seem like an issue, so let me explain. The song they're supposed to perform was originally a duet, but Shane rewrote it to involve all/most of the camp. Eventually the song goes back to being a duet with just Shane and Mitchie, and all the campers are relegated to backup roles basically. One of the issues with Camp Star is that it was a two-man show with Tess and Luke. Why wouldn't Camp Rock keep everybody's parts, plus use the footage to show that they're bigger than two people? Because realistically, the only difference between Camp Star and Camp Rock's performance was that Camp Rock had footage of the campers having fun at camp. But here's the thing, Mitchie got mad at them for goofing off and having fun in the first place. She was against it, and they all got serious because of her. And they still ended up losing. And I'm not saying I'm some great movie writer, but I think the ending would have made more sense to have all the Camp Rock kids performing and being part of the show with the footage running in the background. Let Camp Star see these kids not be relegated to the shadows of Mitchie and Shane. And it would make more sense for the Camp Star kids to be like, hey, I want to be a part of that, even if Camp Rock still loses. Because Camp Rock could have easily performed We Rock from the last movie. It already has singing parts for everyone, and they already know the choreography. Just work on creating a more visually appealing show and you're set. And, like the last movie, this movie is too long. You could cut all the stuff with Nick Jonas and this girl, their relationship has zero payoff, and neither character is important enough to actually matter. You do get a really good solo song from Nick, but other than that there's really no reason to spend any time on this subplot. The music is better than the last movie. I think the last movie had more memorable songs, but I think in terms of like, is the music good? I think this movie has some better music. I think there's some pretty catchy tunes in this movie, and the music is obviously the focus of these movies. The thing about this movie is it really isn't even that bad. If you make some small changes, this movie could easily be average. This movie is better than the first one in pretty much every aspect. Really the only issues I have with the movie are the characters and the goofy stuff. So with that, let's give Camp Rock 2 a 4 out of 10. And that about wraps up this video. Leave a comment down below giving your thoughts on what video you might want to see next. This has been the MeloTime Movie Hour. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe.